discovery.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm super thrilled to be here. This is my second PLG conference, second one in person, too, after COVID, which is exciting. And I'm excited to talk about my favorite topic today, which is Agile product discovery. So, as you mentioned, I'm Lisa Monreal. I'm from Expedia Group. I've been with Expedia for nearly 5 years, and I really work on the partner B2B side. And right now I'm really focused on helping our customers increase their revenue by developing revenue management tools that they can use to help kind of optimize their business. All right, so let's get into product discovery. So many folks, sometimes in enterprise business, think of product discovery as a process where you put a ticket in with your UX research group, it's prioritized, they kind of pick it, and then it takes a couple weeks or a couple months to actually do the research, then they do a readout. So as products, we're supposed to take kind of the insights from that readout and do something with it, turn it into an action. However, this is a waterfall scenario, and it's essentially delegating product discovery to a different group. There we go. And this is when assumptions are made. We all know what that means. Because anytime product development, there's decisions being made, there's bias, and there's assumptions. And these risks can lead us down a very sad path of being feature producers rather than value producers. So, if we can't rely solely on UX research, and they have those really cool tools where they can scan brains and stuff, what can we rely on? So enter design thinking, and that's kind of help us determine what is the right product. And the right product can mean a lot of things. It's the right product for our customers, the right product for our business, and even something that we can actually build. However, if it was that easy, it wouldn't be our job, first of all. And if you Googled product design, you would not see around 50 different templates and foundations for actually doing the Agile or product design discovery. So I do believe there's so many iterations of this because it's important. People have noticed that. And they want to help. So they're trying to kind of look at all this stuff and where people are missing things and creating new ones and then iterating off of other ones. But it's just not as kind of typical as the Agile delivery foundations and methodologies that we see. And I think another problem is every product decision we make is a trade-off, right? So it's not just, we're making this product decision, we're taking it from this user. But it comes at a cost. It comes at a cost of something else that you're not developing. So in addition to being at the right product, we want to make sure that we're solving the right problems, we're picking the right problem to solve, and we're picking kind of the right solution. Okay, a few other reasons why people have some issues kind of fitting product discovery into their process. And maybe some of you have had some of these. I have, definitely. Number one is lack of access to users and research. So definitely with larger companies, understanding you could have millions of users, but you may not know how to find the user you want to talk to and contact that user. It's just not something that typically happens. So you may kind of develop something based on a lot of assumptions and then test afterwards. That's where A/B testing and qualitative after the fact testing comes in through customer feedback. And I've learned, again, a lot of these lessons along the way. And what I've kind of done is look at the Agile process and see how I can take some of those fundamental core values and implement them into product discovery. So I know Agile's thrown around a lot, kind of tends to mean quick and dirty. Some of this is quick and dirty, but it's also based on customer value and iterative delivery of value. So I'm going to go through some of these. All right, transparency. We think about transparency, it's all about openness, communication, accountability, and that's something that really makes a difference when it comes to the success of your project. Because transparency equals alignment, and that equals autonomy. And autonomy makes engineers and product people happy, and it lets us kind of do our own thing, make decisions very quickly without having that red tape behind us of leadership, kind of asking questions every step along the way. All right, so this tip isn't some mind-blowing secret, but I'm actually surprised at how many people don't start with this. So whether you want to call it a kickoff, a liftoff, an inception, it doesn't matter. It's really about getting everyone on the same page before you start the project or developing anything in the product so that everyone's assumptions are out and everyone's looking at their perceived kind of value and making sure they're aligned. Everyone's aligned, so when you're going forward, you don't get those questions of, wait, I thought it was this, or I thought it was this. So even within my org, I have some people asking for advice, like sales is on their back, or an executive is trying to push something onto their roadmap. And I really look at it and ask, how did you start the project? How did you start with the alignment? And that's typically the first place that we kind of go back to and then try to kind of get it from there going on. All right, so yeah, even if a product seems like pretty straightforward, there's a lot of different perceptions in the room. And I'm not saying take a lot of time. I've had inceptions where I've had like 2.5 days when I was developing a brand new product. I've had kickoffs that lasted 2 hours. So really it's just about getting the key critical stakeholders in a room, going through some activities and exercises to make sure everyone's aligned. And some of these are really fun. So different things that we would look at was like anchors and engines. What can speed us up? What can slow us down? Definitely product in a box is a little activity where you have construction paper and you see on the top left, and people are really just defining the value like a cereal box. Like, what is the value right there on the box? And it's just fun, gets people kind of getting creative and ready to kind of cooperate and talk about the rest of the important information. And then each activity that you actually do is going to produce outputs, and these outputs are critical. Project sliders, you look at stuff, everyone's gonna vote, and you're gonna look at sensibility, time to market, performance, because we know we can't have all three that are on the same level. So when someone asks you a question of, why aren't we doing this feature? Say, oh, we were focusing on time to market. So getting out there fast over extensibility. And everyone was part of that decision. So it really helps when you kind of show on this deck. I show this deck all the time of our outputs and remind people. And it needs to be revisited. It's kind of a living, breathing object. But a lot of that stuff that you did in the initial discovery kickoff or inception will stay the same and really help people get on the same page. All right, customer focus. It's all about delivering real value early and often. And our job is to deliver, what customers need, not just what they want. So we don't just take, orders, and when we look at enhancement requests, kind of prioritize those and put them into our roadmap. We really want to uncover what the real need is here. And not on the poll, not having access to users or discovery was the top reason. But this is not an excuse to go forward with the project with your own assumptions. Okay, secondary research. Yes, I'm telling you, Google it. It seems like a very basic strategy, but it is amazing what you can find online for secondary research. And you can actually use this to not only give you a background and an overview, but as inputs to further research. So I've looked online, I found full-on demos of competitors. I was able to kind of speed it up, watch, click and drag kind of things into Miro, look at like everything I wanted to, and then get a group together and do the analysis from there of look at this, it's all right here, took me an hour. And then also you see here, this is a competitor, and this is all public information, but everyone was freaking out. They just got a lot of money. How are we gonna keep up with them? It's really interesting to go and see where that money's going, and typically they have to report this if they have kind of seed money coming in. So looking at different things online, like Crunchbase, will tell you exactly what they're doing and where the money's gone, and you can see if, just get a good or like a broad overview of, are they gonna be a real threat or not? All right, the same goes for secondary internal research. And this is my mind-blowing secret. Honestly, I'm, again, surprised people don't do this as much as they do, but I think many of you have access to different things internally, like Slack, Confluence, shared drives. And with the tech industry, there's been some turnover, and there's also siloed departments. So how many times have you actually started a project, even completed it, and then found out later it's already been done? Or like maybe it wasn't done because they found out that it wasn't valuable. All of that information is stuff that you can learn from. This is a little example, took out some information, but I did a simple search. I found right away like 25,000 messages. Slack has a great algorithm on the first 2 pages. I found like different information from data to problems to someone I knew. So reached out to that person. He connected me with 3 others, plus a whole program that was around something. And I knew a lot more information than I had before. And again, this took minutes. All right, and then for those who I didn't know before and I didn't want to just reach out to, I use other things like Confluence. So I'll go to their Confluence page. I'll see what they have there. Typically that leads to like a plethora of other resources, Jira stories, Jira spikes, Salesforce, where there's actually user, like customer support issues in there. So you can see, again, challenges, problems that you could potentially solve, ways that the other people tried to solve those problems, persona information, just to give you a good background. And this information is not to replace customer interviews at all. It is just to give you a quick start on your discovery and give you some kind of areas that you want to explore further that you can do research with. All right, so yeah, since this has worked really well for me, so pretty much for every project I do, feature enhancement, major products, I do this. I have a system, I know what resources I can look at, and I see if other teams have worked on it. I mean, I work at Expedia Group, we have different areas. So the last one was rate adjustments, another one's coupon codes. You would have to think that like air and hotel has also dealt with coupon codes. And while it's gonna be different, it's a different segment, you're still gonna get a lot of good information when you even just like kind of stalk their Confluence pages and then even have a conversation with them. And then it can even lead to, some not only sharing of information, but building things together. So it's on kind of a platform mindset. All right, so this is my list of go-tos, what I find most of the things from. I'm sure you all have some other ones, but I would definitely suggest trying it. I use all of these different things as search engines. Typically start with Slack because it leads me to a bunch of other things, but I'll be in Figma, like searching for different things. Something will come up and I'm like, wow, that's a whole product that somebody thought of, wasn't developed, but like designs are there. use cases are there. And it depends, some more than others when I'm doing the research, but I always get a good background, and I use this to kind of kickstart in that kickoff meeting with my engineers. All right, shared ownership really goes along with autonomy. We want everyone to feel empowered to make decisions quickly. Typically, engineers haven't been included in the product discovery process. We kind of do that with our product marketers, with our UX, and then bring them in after the fact. And Marty Kagan, to quote him, the first time your developers seeing ideas during sprint planning, you're doing it wrong. I have found so much value in including my engineers in everything from brainstorming solutions to, let's just, again, do a Slack search and see what problems are out there, and we prioritize what we might want to go after, just as an activity. We don't always get there, but it's really empowered them, again, to step up and be strategic. And now they ask all the time. I still do this, but sometimes when things get busy, and there are occasions where they still get something smaller before seeing the research. They ask about the research. They ask if they can watch any customer interviews or anything that'll give them the background information, because they want to be part of the value, not just building something. All right, yeah, and good quote, but another reason to include not only engineers, but cross-functional people in kind of your kickoffs and your team meetings is everyone has different knowns and unknowns, and the real value of Agile product discovery is getting through those high-risk assumptions quickly and getting to the right product. So if you have different people in a room, we're all going to have different knowns and unknowns that we may be able to cross out and be we don't need to go test that assumption. That's now a fact. This is, first pick is one of kind of our first product trios. And this is where we started. It was at a conference where I locked my engineer and UX designer in a room for about 5 hours, and we had nonstop customer interviews. It was a crazy day, but we all learned a lot. But now we've gone to more, this is all big bang, let's try this out. And now we're trying to make it more continuous. So let's get someone on a call here and there to listen to a customer. Let's have someone lead. It's not always my engineering manager. Let's have someone from the team lead something and be included in discovery. And now I think it's been going great. They've even looked at the tools that we use for discovery, and they're trying to see how they can use those to also decrease risk and the kind of feasibility part of it. So this is Miro. Again, they kind of took something that we were using for product discovery for value, and they looked at dependencies, milestones, and it's really helped kind of create just a better guesstimate of how long the work's going to take. All right. So far we've talked about kind of start where you are, start simple, but it's also about continuous discovery and just continuous improvement. So again, I mentioned a few tools. There are a lot of tools out there that can help you with this. I know I'm mentioning Miro again because I really love them. But they have a bunch of templates that you can look at, and even user-generated templates or a community that can help you go through different activities. So right now, you may start with just this secondary research, and then you may go through the process and see where you can speed things up. What do you need to learn faster, and how can you do that? So then I suggest going and looking at the templates. It even tells you kind of what they're for, how they can help, what part of the process. And let's say it's the process of picking which opportunity to actually go forward with, or a few. So they have things on opportunity mapping, and they have jobs to be done. So again, I would just say try them out, try it with your whole team, and if it works, incorporate it. If it doesn't, throw it out and try something else. if you, again, Google things, you're going to get a whole list of, if you're here, do this, do this, do this, do this. And that's why product discovery can be so overwhelming. Like if I looked at this for the first time and thought I had to do all of those things just to get to a level to where I understand, empathize with my customers, and able to move forward with reduced risk, I mean, I wouldn't do it. Like there's just too much to do there. But again, just incorporating one at a time, starting simple, and then trying new things as you go. And we're learning a lot. This is what uncomfortable looks like. So when we did step up from just doing secondary research to customer interviews, one great thing from, I think, Salesforce is that found some customers that were having a problem and contact information, and worked with customer satisfaction managers and did these one-off interviews just to learn more. We ended up then doing focus groups. So every month we'd have a focus group, and almost forces you to have a topic that you need to kind of work on. But you learn a lot, and sometimes you're confused. You're excited, or you're kind of upset because they hate something. But the whole reason you're doing it is to learn. All right. Recap. Don't skip the discovery phase. Be customer obsessed. You can start small, again, with secondary research, with credible sources, of course. Upfront alignment is, to me, one of the most important things that you can do. And then incorporate those Agile principles. What else? Desktop research is what I'm calling it now. I've also called it netnography, because it sounds better than online stalking. And again, be inclusive, involve different people from cross functions, and try new things. All right. Any questions? Oh.
It's on the screen now. See if that's easy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, especially when you're doing secondary research, you need to make sure first it's a credible resource. Second, you do need to look at when it was actually done. If it's 2 years, before, that's fine. But you kind of look for patterns. So you don't take one at face value. Just like when you're talking to a customer, you don't take one thing a customer says at face value. You look for trends, patterns. And so if you're doing a bunch of secondary research, internal and external, also talking to customers, and you're hearing the same thing, that's when you can actually take that in and incorporate it into moving some of your assumptions into facts. Anything else? Yeah.
In discovery process, talking through details with the team, it's pretty easy for people to get caught up in so many different scenarios that you're trying to talk about one thing and it leads to about 5 different things. And then at the end of that, well, what about for this user type as opposed to that user type? Or what about in this unique circumstance as opposed to that circumstance?
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, you're not even sure kind of where you ended. So what are some strategies that you use to manage scope so that you can actually get to something that you can deliver and then move on from there?
Yeah, I think it's simplifying. So if you look at 5 different target markets and you're trying to find a commonality, probably not going to find it. If you do, that's great, you can go with it. But if you're doing like customer interviews and research and you find, 5 or 8 people are saying the same thing, then you can go with it. But if you don't, you need to narrow your search. And I think that's the biggest thing is some people want to get so much done at once that they expand it, and then you're just wasting effort because you're not going to find anything that you can use to actually help you provide value. And then also some of those activities, like the product in a box, you actually, when you're doing them, you specify who the persona is and you focus on something like a really targeted, kind of MVP. I think some of those like help people get in the mindset of focusing on smaller rather than broad. Right. Any discovery methodologies you've moved away from? I would say not moving away, again, just, well, it's not true. I really take marketing material on competitor website as, a grain of rice. I don't put too much into it. However, it is interesting to look at that sometimes because you can see who they might be targeting to if you think there's some convergence and there's a new market. So if all of a sudden you're kind of looking at their material and they're saying, oh, we have this, this, and that, and they're kind of focusing on one core market that they weren't before, that can give you a signal. And then, again, just really making sure it's credible. Some of like the review sites can help with reviews like that are actually down there from real people, but sometimes they just give you a very generic ... They have this feature that had this feature, and that's not very helpful. How do you ensure continuous discovery and delivery in true dual track fashion? Start small. I mean, if you try to all of a sudden incorporate an entire dual track of discovery and delivery, and you look online and it tells you how to do that, it may not work for you and your team. It's going to be different for every team. So that's why I think, again, there's so many of the methodologies out there. I think you need to see what works for you, but also try some things out. And if you all of a sudden are saying, we're going to take, I know they have design sprints, but if you're going to take 2 weeks off your whole team to do a design sprint, your engineers are going to be like, what? If you've never done that before. And that's not really the purpose of taking them completely off of what they should be mainly focusing on. But just small incremental changes, see what helps you learn fast and get rid of anything that doesn't. Great way to determine your total addressable market. I find some things in industry research, online, mainly for industry. So there's a lot, obviously, on travel and vacation rentals. That gives me a little bit more of what to target. But then you do really need to kind of look at more credible sources or more sources that are sometimes behind a firewall that you kind of look at if you don't have enough evidence to actually put that together. I've worked at a lot of companies where they guess or they use information that's 5 years old that they had, they one time bought a $2,000 study, and they've been using it ever since. I would strongly advise against that. Oh, how do you manage the right amount of time to include engineers in discovery? Yeah, that's a great question. So what we've done now, and it takes some trial and error, right? So at the beginning, when I very first started, just with my engineering manager, he was involved a lot, and it was too much, and he'll work however many hours, and I didn't want that happening. So what we're trying now is actually, again, splitting up the team, and sometimes we'll have something in, and we'll ask for a lead. So that person will come in and lead that and be involved in some of the customer interviews. We're always recording them so they can go back, and then I also kind of analyze them and use the kind of recorded transcripts. So there's ways that you can speed up things. That doesn't take your entire engineering team away from what they should really be working on, but to kind of rotate and get some people in and out and try new things. All right.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. Great job. Let's give Lisa a hand.